Amen. So get your sermon notes out, get your Bibles. We're going to be in a couple of different places, but I want to talk about the word search, and so there's a definition to the word search, and you know what this definition is to look into or to look over carefully in an effort to find or discover something or someone. That every one of us have lost something. You know, that there are times where you've lost something and you've had to go on the hunt to find it. How many of you have lost your keys before? Just curious. Hey, listen, some of you are not raising your hands because you're like, hey, yeah, we've lost our keys. How many of you lost your wallet or something like that? How many? I guess maybe that's just guys, but you know, your purse. Anybody lose their purse? Yeah, one. Okay, I see you back there. Good job. And how many of you lost your mind? Just anybody? So we've all lost something. We've all lost something, and we have to go find it. And these are one of those moments where you're like, you will turn on every light, you'll open every door, you'll look in every corner, because it's like, listen, what I'm looking for, what's lost is important to me, and I need to find it. I lose my keys once in a while, so hey, Tarantino's, they're here. I knew they were coming. So let's welcome them. They're missionaries to France. Amen. Welcome, guys. I thought you were going to be here, but anyways, I knew it, so I'm glad you're here. And they're going to be talking next week, so you could flood them with questions, but they're going to be here next week too, talking. So anyways, back to the story. So we're all looking for things, and we have this thing right outside the door, right before the door. It's like a place to put all your keys, because I don't know about you, but it's like, you know, if you have them in your bedroom or in the kitchen, they're just going to get moved, because my wife moves everything, and I can't find anything when she moves it, and it's all her fault, right? And but we all find we're losing something, and we're trying to find it, but we'll turn every light on, we'll look in every corner, look in every room, look every part, because we're looking for something. That's what the word search means. And I want you to consider that God is searching, God is looking, God is looking for not just something, He's looking for someone. He made this earth, He made everything in it, but listen, the most important thing that He's looking for is that which is lost, and that is people. And so He's looking for you. And so He is on mission to look for you. And that's exactly what God wants to do. God wants to look for people. And He's been doing it from the beginning of time. He's been looking and searching. And He will go to unbelievable lengths to find you and to find me. And we sing this song called Reckless Love. And it's an amazing song. I know that people kind of get a little cranky about that word reckless, because it kind of gives the impression that God is reckless, and God isn't, right? God is not reckless. He knows exactly what He's doing. But the point of it is that God will go to unbelievable lengths to find you. And I love in that song, it says this, and there's a couple of images this song gives you, is that there's no mountain that He won't climb up to find you. That there's no shadow that He won't light up. That there's no door, there's no wall that He won't break down. And there's no lie that He won't tear down, that you've believed, that's kept you at a distance from Him. And I love that part of the song, is that God will go to unbelievable lengths to find you. Where you and I, we may give up the search, God never gives up on you. And so this morning, that's what we're going to talk about. God is on the search for you. And if God doesn't do this, we are lost. If God doesn't look for you, if God doesn't call your name, then you have no hope. Why? Because of John. Look what Jesus says in John 6:44. We read this verse and we kind of run right over it, but it's pretty powerful when He says, no one, say no one, hello? No one. How many is that? No one. No one can come to me unless, say unless. Unless the Father who sent me does what? Draws him. And I will raise him up at the last day. So there's this process we're lost and we're hopelessly lost unless God draws us to Himself, where He draws us to Him to receive Him, and that's where He says, I will raise him up at the last day. It is a work of God as we receive what He did for us. But this process doesn't happen, and we walk through this verse, we read it, and we don't like it. We get a little bit cranky about it because we're like, listen, we're Americans. We could choose, right? And we do choose. But the reality is, we don't have the power to choose unless He helps us. He's got to draw us. And that word draw, that Greek word, is the word helku. And it's described this way. It is the word that says it's to drag. I mean, literally, when it says to draw, it's to drag, to pull, and to persuade. Now, when you look at these three words, that God is doing this in your life, and you may not have even realized it. That there are moments, I need an assistant. I need my trusty sidekick, Ellis. Yeah, come on up here, man. Sorry, you don't get to play Jesus or God. We're trying to keep that God complex. No, I'm just kidding down. But listen, come on over here. So this is the word. Literally, this is what God does. Unless the Father draws, unless God does this. And God is doing this in your life, and there are moments where you may not even realize it. But to drag is literally, there are moments in our lives where we stick our heels in the ground. And so I'm going to pull you, but I want you to resist, okay? So this is, I'm dragging, wow, you're strong. Anyway, but I'm dragging him. And there are moments where God does this in our lives. And there are moments where we have been stubborn. There are moments where we push back. There are moments where we say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to. And it's like we push and we're like digging our heels in and we're saying no. And there are times where God is doing this and he's not letting go. And there's been times in your life where you have been absolutely stubborn with him. Hello? Anybody? Have you been stubborn to the point where you're digging in your heels and saying, no, I'm not going? It's like a kid, about to eat vegetables. Here's your broccoli, kid. And you're like, no. And you're like, he's pushing away. And there are times where we do that to God. But God is drawing him while we're fighting. He is still pulling. He's still dragging. And you may feel like you've been dragged here. You may feel like you've been dragged to church before, or maybe, it's like, I felt that way before. I don't want it. I didn't want it at all. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. And I remember thinking, Mom wanted us to go to church, and there were times where God was dragging me. And how he did that was through VBS, all right? It was through VBS, God dragged me to him. That was one of those moments for me that Mom, I was a kid. I'm the youngest of three, and so I'm the baby, which means I'm the best, right? And so Mom needed a break from Rustin, okay? There were moments where I know, but yeah, she needed a break from me. And she heard that there was a VBS at my elementary school, which was just a walk away, and so she would send me to this VBS. I didn't want to go. It's like, I don't know these people. I don't know what they're going to do. I have no idea. And so I didn't want to go, but she dragged me there because she was going to have a 2-hour break, okay? It helped her. But listen, that was a moment that God dragged me. And there are moments where God's been dragging you, and you didn't even know it, but God's been dragging you because God's not going to give up on you. But he's also been pulling you. Now, the idea of pulling is not that you're resisting. It's just that you're hesitant, like you're not sure. It's like, hey, let's go over here. So how would you give me a hesitation? Like, yeah. It's not fighting me. It's just I'm hesitant. And there are times in our lives where we've been hesitant, where we don't know, we're not sure, we're a little confused. I mean, how many times, I as a pastor, I've never gone to like a church I didn't know because I was going there to be the pastor, so I got to know the people. So I was like, no big deal, but to go to a church family for the first time, to walk through those doors and to not know what you're about to experience, you don't know if the people are weird. You don't know if they're going to be like totally stealing your wallet. You don't know. There's all these fears. Like, do they have bathrooms? Do they have AC? I mean, you have all these questions that you're like, they call it entrance anxiety. And some of you had some entrance anxiety before. Some of you that are new have probably felt it this morning going, if you're for the first time, there's families that come and visit us all the time, and we hope they'll stay, but anyways, we hope they stay, but they come check it out, and I'm sure there's some anxiety when they pull onto the parking lot, and they just don't know what they're going to experience. But they're hesitating, but they keep coming. And this is what God does. God's been doing that in your life too, where God's been pulling you. Not dragging you, but there are moments where you've been dragged. No, I'm not going. And then there are times where, I'm just not so sure. I just don't know. But then there's times where he persuades you. This is where he's wooing you, okay? So this is where it's like, do you have a girlfriend? No. Okay. So would you like a girlfriend? Sure. Okay, any single?
No.
Girl? Okay, no. All right, okay. We won't go there. Hey, listen. Hey, listen. Hayden's here. They're going to be coming in. They had a sign that said single on his forehead at the conference. And they were trying to hook him up. It was really cool. So that's what that's what the church is for. But that's what we'll do for you too. Okay. So, but if there was a girl that you were like, I want to woo, I like her, what would you do? What would you do? Like, how would you woo her? Okay, he needs help. He needs help. Okay. Okay. So listen. So when Tiffany so you're doing really great. So way to go. So listen, when I dated Tiffany, so like I wanted to date this girl. My friend said, hey, she's single, and well, she was dating a guy, but he was a bad guy, so we needed to get her away from him. But anyways, he said, listen, she's a great girl, and I think you'd really like her. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. So I went over and asked her on a date, and it was for July 3rd. And so we went out. It was fireworks July 3rd. Fireworks on July 4th, and so we were really excited. We were going to watch the fireworks, and so I was having this date with this hot girl, and I was like, yes, I'm so excited. So I get, you get all dressed up. So, I mean, you gotta, let's comb your hair. You gotta put some nice clothing on, shower. Brush your teeth, and from the smell of him, I think you might. No, I'm just kidding. You smell great. But you would put your nice clothes on. You would, make sure, check your breath, and you're like, I want to give the best first impression. And so I did that for Tiffany. I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna rock it. And if you were to ask her how it went, she would say, he didn't shut up all night. I was so nervous. I was so excited that I talked the whole time. But I was so excited. But she agreed to a second date. Now, okay, so now that you're on a second date, how else do you woo her?
I don't know, try to show off or something.
Show off?
Yeah.
Like what?
Oh,
sorry, not show off that way.
Yeah.
Like maybe take her out like go to the movies.
Yeah.
Go to the movies, maybe get her some chocolate. Get her some flowers. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't see the yeah. I just see the yeah. So get her some flowers, find out what she likes. She likes long walks on the beach, so you find Pine Knob and go walk on the path. So you do all this stuff because you're like, I'm wooing her. So it's not always the drag, and it's not the pull. It's the come here. Let me see. Isn't he so great? He's my loving assistant. I love him. Don't you like hugs, man?
No.
Go. You go sit over there. All right. I love Ellis. You never have to leave. Listen, I know you're going to be moving sometime to Fort Wayne. You cannot, okay? I need you. You're my friend. He's awesome. But that's the word draw. And God has been doing that in you. And you don't even know it sometimes. But if God doesn't, you have no hope. But this is what God has been doing in my life and what he's been doing in yours. And there's times where he has dragged me, and there's times where he has, come on, I know, and then there are times where he just woos me. And so this morning, I want to talk to you about some methods, like how does God go about searching for people? What are the things that he does? And so in the few remaining moments that we have, there's 3 things that I want to point out. There's 5, and there's multitude. And my question for you is this: what method did God use to bring you to him? I want you to just process that. That's the question I want you to get to, because I want you to think about that. How did God bring you and draw you to himself? And so the first thing is this: God uses people. Sometimes God uses people to go look for people who are lost. See, God in his search, he's using you to go find them. And so there are people that he wants to reach in and through you. And I think about like Philip and his brother Nathaniel. When Philip found Jesus, this is what he found. It says in John chapter 1, verse 45, Philip found Nathaniel and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." So here's Philip going, listen, we found him. And so he takes that and goes, "Where's Nathaniel?" And he finds Nathaniel. He's like, "We found the one that we've been looking for, that mom and dad have been telling us that we've been searching for, that we're to be waiting for. Mom and dad told us all about him. We've been waiting for it, and here he is." I love that. You see, people have been telling other people about Jesus for a long time. And maybe God used somebody to tell you about Jesus. I love Paul's letter to Timothy in 2 Timothy. In 2 Timothy, this is what Paul writes. How God used people in Timothy's life. And he says this, "I have been reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother who? Lois, and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you also." He's like, you have a mom and a grandma who talk to you about Jesus. Some of you had moms and grandmas, maybe dads and grandpas too. We'll put you in there. But maybe you had parents and grandparents tell you about Jesus. I didn't. I didn't at all. There was one woman that I will forever be grateful for. And it was my old neighbor, Vicky Mayo. Doug, can you do me a favor? I want you to go to this wall. Go ahead, come on up. I'm not going to ask you anything weird, okay? So it's okay. That's only for Alice, so we do the fun stuff. So I want you to go to that wall. I want you to count how many steps it takes you to get from that wall to that door, okay? Just walk straight through. And let's all watch Doug. You can count out loud if you want. Okay. How many steps is it going to keep going? How many steps does it take? 23 steps. Okay, thank you. Can we these guys are great. Can we thank these guys for help? They're so awesome. I love it. Listen, 23 steps to walk from her door to my door. And it changed everything. 23 steps. I will never forget this woman, because we were dead in our sin. We were being dragged, we were being pulled, we were being wooed. And this woman walked 23 steps and knocked on our door and told us about Jesus. I remember I wanted nothing to do with God. But that wouldn't stop her from telling me what I needed to know. We've always said to her, if you need anything, you got it. We said, if you need a new car, that's mom and dad's job. But we said, you are our sister. You are like our mother in the faith. Is there someone, a stranger or a family member, that told you about Jesus? You know, when was the last time you said thanks to them? If they're still living, have you said thanks to them? There's a guy, I'll be brief. I wasn't planning on sharing the story, but there's a guy named Brad, a good friend of mine. When I was a junior and senior in high school, I was really passionate about telling people about Jesus. So much so they named my truck the Gospel Getter. Okay. Yeah. I was cool, all right? But I remember there was this good friend of mine, and his name was Brad, and I would invite him to church, and I would tell him about God. I would tell him about Jesus. God loves you. Jesus died for you, rose again. And he would hear it over and over and over again. And he would tell me, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. He's like, it's totally cool that you have it, but I don't want it. I'm like, okay. I'm not here to force you. You're gonna, I'm not doing that. I'm just here to tell you what I know. And it was about 20 years later. I just got here. I was going back to Plymouth to visit some family, and on the way, I got a message from Brad. And he was in his Sunday school class. It writes, I was in church the other day, and I'm going, it's that, what? Like, do you know people that you're like, I don't know if they would ever walk in the doors of a church. That was Brad. He just didn't seem like he was ever going to be interested. But God was drawing him. And he said the Sunday school teacher had asked, who's the most influential person, spiritually influential person in your life? And he said, so I wanted to write you and tell you that I raised my hand. And the teacher called on me. And I said, Rusty. Now listen, you are not ever allowed to call me Rusty. I will take out your tongue, okay? I mean, who needs it, right? Once in a while. But the thing is, he said, Rusty was the most influential person in my life. I'm reading this, and I'm going, are you kidding me? You rejected everything I said. How was I the most spiritually influential person in your life? And he kept writing, and he said, because you didn't give up on me. And what you did in high school had an effect later. Did God use somebody to influence you? Who was it? Have you said thanks to them? We don't idolize them. I don't idolize this woman. She's just special to me. She is my sister and friend. She's no different than me. But here's this just housewife that just loved Jesus and wanted to tell us about him. And we are forever changed. She didn't change us, Jesus did, but God used her, because God uses people. Who's the people that God used in your life? Second thing that God does is that he works through circumstances. So it could be that a lot of times God uses circumstances. A lot of people call them divine appointments to find people who are lost. Like you can't, it's the way it's organized, it's like you couldn't have planned that. This is the way God works. It's like God orchestrated events that got you thinking about things that you weren't thinking about before, but because of it, now you're thinking about it, and it's attacking you. I was thinking about this woman in John chapter 4, where everybody would steer clear of Samaria, but Jesus was walking through. And it's a rather fascinating story about the woman at the well, and you know this story. But maybe you run right past it, you don't even think about it. But it says, now he had gone through Samaria, which most of the time, everybody hated the Samaritans. They're those people. Nobody goes to those people. But that's the group of people that they were. They were known as those people. And like when I was in Plymouth, when I first became the pastor at the church in Plymouth, they were taking me around, Tiffany and I around town. I don't know, maybe you probably remember this. But they drove by this place of these houses, and they said, that's where those people live. And I won't say anything. It was just an ethnicity. And they said, that's where those people live. Like we don't go there. Nobody goes there. Nobody. And that's what they felt about the Samaritans. And it says, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Interesting. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, what? Tired as he was from his journey, sat down by the well. Now this is really interesting. It was about the 6th hour when a Samaritan woman came to draw water. This is a fascinating story, because you think about it, nobody wants to go through Samaria, but Jesus chooses to go through Samaria. And Jesus has an appointment. And you think about it, Jesus, who bore the cross, who took all the weight of the sin of the world, every lashing, and it's like, he's like, guys, I'm tired. And he sits down by a well. And the guys, they're like, well, we'll go to the town and get some food, because you find out later in the story. So they go to the town to get some food. While he's gone, it's like, really, you're tired? And it's like, I wonder if this is just Jesus getting those guys away. Because the disciples, at a later time, they said with some Samaritans, should we call down fire and burn these people to a crisp? And Jesus is like, what is wrong with you, man? And here's a divine appointment that God wants to have with this woman. And it says that she's at the 6th hour, which is about noon, and when it's hot, but most of the time, we've been in Haiti and other places where they go in the morning, early morning, to get water. Not this time. And you've probably heard this story before, that this is probably where she went to get away from the crowds, because she was a pretty messed up woman. But that didn't matter to Jesus. He had a divine appointment with her. And here he shows up while the guys are gone. And here Jesus has a divine appointment with her. I think God orchestrates events that are beyond our understanding. Like I'll never forget. So we were at Urban Hope this last April, and we had walked into a Chick-fil-A, and we were wearing our green shirts, and the waitress said, "What's this all about?" We just said, "Well, we're here to work with the homeless." I don't know, I think we told you this story maybe. And they said, "We're here to work with the homeless and like give them food and let them know that they matter to God, that Jesus died for them and rose again." And she's like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And so she gave us our food, and then she went back. And then while we're sitting there, this elderly black man sat down at a booth, and it's so cool how God does these things, because the guy looks right at a student just across the way. And this student is one of the most reserved students. Like you talk to him, he like wants to crawl in a hole. And that's my son, okay? And so he looks at my son and says, "Hey, what's this all about?" And my son, being as eloquent as he is, he said, "What?" Hayden is sitting next to him. Hayden sees this whole thing, and he's going, so they get up and they walk over, they talk to this guy. This guy's at like, what was it, stage 3 or stage 4 cancer? And they're like talking to this guy and telling him about Jesus and loving him. They say, "Can we pray for you?" And they're praying for him, and I'm standing there watching all this unfold. I'm like, this is so cool. And the waitress who had asked me originally what was going on, she like saw them praying, and she said, so what, you guys go around and you pray for people too? And I'm like, yeah. And she said, "Well, can you pray for me?" And I said, "No." And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." And I'm like, "Well," and so she poured out her heart to us. And I'm like, these are divine appointments. Guys, these are divine appointments. And you could say, "Well, that was kind of funny." This is God working. Because God is orchestrating events so that people can be drawn, dragged, pulled towards Him. Third thing is that God uses the Scriptures. Sometimes God just uses the Word of God to find people who are lost. I love this Ethiopian eunuch who's going back to Ethiopia for whatever they had gone up to Jerusalem for, but here they're on their way back, and they're reading from the book of Isaiah. And God tells Philip to go run, to be beside the chariot, and just be there. And it says this, "Then Philip ran up to the chariot and heard the man reading Isaiah the prophet. And he says, 'Do you understand what you are reading?' Philip asked, 'How can I,' he said, 'unless someone,' what? 'Explains it to me.'" So he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. It's almost like a mixture, God using people, circumstances, and God using this book to point people, to drag people, to draw people to Him. And I was at a golf outing, and I saw this so powerfully. God uses this book, to lead people to Him. I mean, I've heard stories of guys that are ready to commit suicide, rent a hotel room, go into the hotel room, open up the top drawer, and there's a Gideon Bible, and they just start reading. And God speaks to them. But there was a guy that I'll never forget. I was at Luke's golf outing just a couple months back, and I was sitting on the golf cart. Tiffany was in the car. It was a little cold, our spring, winter, whatever it was we had. And we were waiting for things to start, and there was this guy that kept walking by, and he would stare me down. And I thought, I don't know what this guy needs or wants, but I don't know what's going on here. But he kept staring me down. And then I saw him, so I'd watch him because I didn't know. I just didn't know if he was weird or something. I didn't know. And so he was up by his golfers from Westview, and I'm watching him because I just didn't know what was going on. And he throws his hands up, and he walks towards me, and I'm going, all right, we're about to throw down. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did. He goes, are you Rustin? I was like, how do you know me? And he's like, well, I was at a men's retreat, and I heard you talk, and it was at the last men's retreat that we were at. And he said, we were talking about, and I said, tell me about yourself. And he's like, well, he started telling me a story. And he said, well, I grew up Amish. And he said, we met Jesus by reading the scriptures. And he said, we started having questions. And so he said, I went to my bishop, and I said, I've been reading the scriptures, and it's talking about Jesus and how we're sinners and that we need a Savior. And I don't understand it. Can you explain this to me? And the bishop said, we don't talk about that. Now, I'm not saying that every group does that. I'm not saying that at all. Just, it was in this moment. And he went back home to his wife, and they'd been married for a long time, years. And they had like all their kids. And he said, I don't know what to do with this. He said, the Bible's talking about Jesus, and we got to do something about this. And he's talking about those who call on the name of the Lord be saved. And I don't know what, but they don't want to talk about it, and I don't know what to do. And they said, we need to leave. And we need to go find Jesus. A people who talk about Jesus. And so he went to his parents, and his parents were disappointed, but they said, okay, you got to go. If you got to go, you got to go. And then they were going to go talk to her parents, which her dad was the bishop. And he looked at his daughter and said, are you going to go too? And she said, he's my husband. And this thing tells us about Jesus. And we got to follow him. I'm sitting there in the golf cart thinking this guy wants to beat me up, but he just wants to tell me about Jesus and what Jesus has done in his life. I didn't know. And I'm thinking, that's what God does. God uses his word. It may not be through a person. It may not be through a circumstance. It just may be, I need answers. I need you, God. Sometimes God does it through prayer. You know, sometimes people are at their desperate end. They don't know what to do, and they're saying, they throw up like a Hail Mary prayer, God, help me. I'll never forget, I know time is short, but I'll never forget the story. I'm a chaplain for the sheriff's department, and this guy was telling a story that as a chaplain down in southern Indiana was invited, like he went and talked with the sheriff, and they said, what do you want me to do today? And he said, I want you to go drive with this guy. It's his turn, so you need to go ride with him. So he said, okay. So he found the guy by his car, and he said, hey, I'm riding with you today. And the guy goes, get out. He goes, no, seriously. He goes, no, get out. He's like, no. They want me to ride with you. It's your turn. And he's like, what joke are you playing with me? And he's like, I'm not playing a joke. What are you talking about? I'm here to ride with you. Let's go for a ride. Let's go. And he's like, get in the car. He's like, you got a gun. Okay. You know? So he gets in the car, and he said, seriously, what joke are you playing? What game are you playing with me? And he said, I'm not playing a game with you. And he said, listen. He said, today was my last day. He said, I was going to call it quits on this life. He said, I've lost my wife, my family, and I was done. He said, I got in my car, I came to the department, and on my way, I prayed for the first time. He said, God, if you're there, I need you. And if you can send somebody to me, I'll know you're real. Sometimes God hears those prayers like that. Isn't that cool? Sometimes it's just by coming to church. It's like you invited somebody to come, or they're like, we don't know where to go. Guys, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of brokenness in our county. Family brokenness, individual people, And they're just looking, I need help. And they find themselves scared to death, but coming through these doors because they need to know, is there a God that loves me? God does this. How did God draw you? You see, God might use multiple methods in multiple ways. And why does he do it? Why? Why does he do it? Because he loves you. Because he sees you. Because he cares for you. Because he wants you. And he's not going to give up on you. So my question for you is, how did he find you? How did he find you? Did he use somebody? Did he use a circumstance? Did he use the scriptures? Did he use, you called out to him and he answered? Is it the church? Whatever. How did God draw you? And would you let God use you to draw others to himself? We're going to close with a song. It's the Reckless Love song. And it's just that God in his way is searching. There's no mountain that he will not climb. There is no shadow that he won't light up. There is no wall that he will not bust down. And there's no lie that has kept you from him that he won't tear down. Because he loves you. And I'm going to invite you to stand here and we're going to pray. If you want to come up and pray, you can while we're singing the song. But here's your moment where maybe you just say, God, I'm done running. You've been wooing me to yourself. And today I crossed that line of faith. And I'm going to trust you. I'm going to become a follower of Jesus. And you can come and I'd like to pray with you. Just to cement that, to say, yes, I want to follow Jesus today. And not only that, maybe there's people in your life that you're like, there's neighbors, coworkers, family, and friends. There's people that you rub shoulders with that need Jesus. It was so cool seeing people come up and pray and say, I'm calling out to you, God. Use me, however it is. Draw them to you. Because when you called our name, we came out of that grave. Amen? So you stand and let's sing this song. And if you want prayer, we got our elders. Elders, come on up here. And we just want to pray. Pray for you. Pray for the people in your life. And let's worship the Lord, who will go to unbelievable lengths to find us. Well, thanks for watching the sermon today. We hope that it's been a blessing and an encouragement to you. Feel free to peruse our YouTube channel and find other messages that might be pertaining to situations in your life that can be an encouragement to you. Hey, listen, we would love for you to visit us in person. And we have 2 services, one at 9 and one at 10:30. We would love to have you stop at Brighton Chapel and check it out live. And it'll be a blessing and an encouragement to your week. So we'll see you then.